Going back out to the Boss Firearms Hotline to talk to Mr. Jordan Pugh, former Texas A&M safety, and a guy that I feel like when I talk to, I learned something about the game of football from. So no pressure today, JP, but I need you to teach me something. But let's start with this. There's been a lot made about the offensive performance on Saturday night. A lot of people talked about the quarterback in the quarterback play. That quarterback sat in front of the media and faced the music yesterday and owned up to it. From a defensive player's perspective and a guy that was the leader on his defense, what does that mean to you when your quarterback goes in front of the media and answers the questions the way that Wigman did yesterday?
I mean, I love it. Like, if we're being honest, it was a bad game on his part. I mean, it just is what it is. And sometimes you just have moments like that. But, looking at it from like a defensive perspective, man, I was thoroughly impressed with what Notre Dame did. And Connor saw an NFL defense last Saturday. That's what he saw. And I think that it kind of threw his game off. He was rattled a little bit. He couldn't get his rhythm going. It was just one of those deals where you're trying to fight your way out of it. You know what I mean? And he just couldn't find his rhythm. But as a guy who's on the team, man, you understand that there's performances like that. You understand the pressure that he has. Everybody's hyping Connor up, talking about a potential first-round guy. I think a lot of the expectations got to Connor a little bit too in that moment, man. But look, there's no doubting him, no doubting his ability. I think he's a phenomenal leader. The talent is there. I'm not off the Connor bandwagon. I just think it's one of those performances from an offensive perspective, man. You ran into a team that was better than expected. You ran into a defense that I believe is elite. I was thoroughly impressed by that defense in Notre Dame. But, man, I think he'll bounce back. I think, this is just one of those deals where you build upon it. You get hit with an elite team early on, first game. You're getting the rhythm down and whatnot. But, man, from a leadership standpoint, you take the praise, you take the criticism, you keep moving forward.
Yeah, he had a stinker. There's nothing like he did. And he had a stinker against a really good team. And for me, I'm going to view that as an outlier. And look, you know this. You don't get to pick whenever you have bad or good games. You can prepare and you can feel good about your preparation, and you walk out there on Saturday, and I'm sure sometimes on Sunday in your career, and you play bad. And everything that you did during the week had indicators, hey, I'm going to play well this week, and you play bad. So you don't get to pick and choose those. But is there a time in your career, and I asked Jamie McCoy this, that you can remember, whether it be a quarterback or maybe a guy playing in front of you at linebacker, or he's struggling like that, where you've got to go to him in game, like, hey, man, we believe in you. You're okay. We got you.
Oh, man, there's plenty of times throughout my A&M career we've had games like that. Man, I remember when we played Oklahoma, I want to say it was my junior year, we got beat 66-3 or something like that, or whatever it was. I remember going up to Kansas State in Manhattan, and Kansas State just blowing the doors off of it. It's just one of those deals where nothing went right? But immediately from a personal standpoint, I remember we played Missouri. I want to say it was either my sophomore or junior year. And it was one of those deals where I stank up the joint. It's just, you just try and find your way out of it, man. You try to get in your groove. And it seems like the harder and harder you dig, the harder and harder you push, the worse and worse it gets. And so sometimes, man, it's just one of those days. But you have to lean on your teammates. You got to lean on your coaches and understand that, hey, man, this stuff happens. But you have the opportunity to move on. You have the opportunity to improve. And there's always another week. And so, man, it's just one of those deals where you take it, you accept it, you move on, and you just grow forward from it.
How important is practice this week? I don't know that we're going to learn. I've said it all morning. We may not learn a lot from Saturday against McNeese. But I think this team can learn a lot about themselves this week in practice.
I mean, practice is huge, it's vital, but as a player, man, you move on, you scrap it. So you watch the film already at this point, whether it was Sunday or yesterday, you watch the film, you move on, and you understand the task at hand. You know what you are. You know who you are as a team. You know that you have the players. You know that you have the personnel to do what you need to do. Now it's just about executing it. Sometimes, man, when you have games like this, the anticipation can lead to a certain outcome, right? So when you're looking at the buildup all summer long, you're looking at Notre Dame on the schedule all season long, you're looking at the week leading up to the game where College game day is going to be there. It's the anticipation. It's the adrenaline. It's all the expectation, man. And sometimes you can just flatline. And I don't think as a team that we flatline. I just think offensively, when we're looking at one phase of the game, I think from overall perspective, they just flatline as an offense, couldn't make adjustments. So when you go into this week, you understand that you got the first one out of the way. You understand that, hey, man, we know what we are. We have a game against an opponent under our belt. Now it's time to just do what we do. We build upon what we have. We look at the success. We look at the failures. We manipulate and we add, we take away, and we go on to the next game, man. And and we thrive.
Well, you mentioned how impressed you were with the Notre Dame defense. Tell me, or take us through a little bit of what you saw that they did that provided that confusion for Connor, maybe even Colin Klein.
Well, so here's what I'll say about our offense, and I'll get to the defense. I thought that Notre Dame's game plan was a much better game plan than what we had offensively. And I don't think that we made the adjustments in game to what they were providing and what they were showing us on defense. When I looked at what Al Golden was doing on defense, he was running an NFL-style defense, and I thought it was beautiful. You're talking to a defensive guy. So I'm looking at the schemes. I'm looking at the match protections. I'm looking at how he was confusing the offensive line on certain pressures. And then I know everybody got caught up in the man-to-man element of the game, right? Everybody kept saying Notre Dame is playing man, which they were. But they were playing a lot of match zone or match man concepts within their zones, right? And so I think that was throwing Connor off a lot. When you saw, I think Elko talked about his footwork. When you saw his footwork, when you saw him hold on the ball a little bit longer, it's because he saw one thing and it ended up moving to another in those match man, match zone concepts, right? So I think that Notre Dame's game plan was just absolutely phenomenal. But you also had the personnel that was elite too on the Notre Dame side. So when you look at it from that perspective, I think that Klein just didn't have a response to what they were providing defensively, what they were showing defensively. And then, of course, you get bailed out. We throw the interception. I think the overthrow over Noah Thomas. There were certain things where, the players got to bail you out sometimes. But overall, I just thought that defensive scheme, I thought the personnel on Notre Dame's side, I thought they were elite. And I was impressed a lot. But I think we're overreacting a little bit when it comes to the offense. We have the playmakers. We have the skill on the outside. We got the running backs. Our offensive line impressed me a lot with how they handle a lot of the pressures. But, man, it's one game. I think you have a lot to grow from, and you know who you are now on offense because you got a game sample under, and that's going to help Klein moving forward.
On the other side of the ball, JP, what'd you like about the Aggie defense? Really an unfortunate play to start the day because Dalton Brooks has just been sensational in camp.
Yes.
You talk to anybody over there, they rant and rave about the second-year man from Shiner, and he goes out on a targeting call. And I don't know that it ever changed A&M's game plan, but overall I liked what A&M did. They just didn't tackle late.
Well, first of all, I hate that targeting rule. I can't stand that targeting rule. Give them a warning the first time, and then the second time, okay, you can kick them out. Don't get me on my rant with that. Defensively, I love what I saw from the defense. The defense played their butt off. Now, from a game standpoint, man, it was a defensive slugfest. Both defenses doing their thing. They're getting the offenses off the field. We held Notre Dame under 200 passing yards. This game came down to 2 plays. It came down to 2 run plays. That's what it was. And on the 2 run plays, one was a missed tackle. The other one, man, was a misfit. It looked like they were in zero. If I'm
said they
reading
were.
it correctly. Oh, they were? Okay,
Yeah.
Boom. Then there it is, right? So that's what it came down to, man. This was a game where who was going to break the dam first, right? We kept knocking, they kept knocking, and eventually they just broke the dam on us. But from a defensive perspective, I saw the safeties firing their run fits. Man, I was impressed by Lee at the corner position. I love what our D-line did. Everybody keeps making a big deal about we didn't get a lot of sacks. But you got to understand how the game plan was manipulated by our defensive line. Everything was 8 and under from Notre Dame in the pass game. You didn't see a lot of big shots. There was a lot of mesh routes. That's because of our D-line. Catch the ball, release the ball. So when you look at what we did defensively, man, by that performance, looking at what we did, looking at our personnel, that will carry us throughout the season because defense travels. I was thoroughly impressed by what we did on defense. I'm highly encouraged by what we did on defense, man. And I think, man, we're going to cause a lot of havoc for a lot of teams with what we have.
Well, one of the things Elko said that if I had to be critical about the way we played on defense, he thought that the back end didn't leverage the football well enough in the run game. Can you explain to me maybe what he saw and what he means by that to folks that don't understand leveraging the football by the corners and safeties and how important it is?
2 plays. I want to say it was the third quarter on that touchdown run and the fourth quarter. It's 2 plays that stood out. So on the touchdown run, York missed the tackle. Okay. But when you look at our nickel position, I think, and I want to say it was Lee at the corner position, they overran the football. They didn't keep it on their inside shoulder, and they didn't allow the pursuit to get there in time to make the tackle. That's what he's talking about with those run fits. So it's one thing to miss the tackle, but it's another thing to have the people in position to force it to the other defenders. When you look at the fourth quarter, I want to say they broke a 20-yard run. I want to say it was like a 3rd down maybe, if I'm not mistaken. And they had a closed set tight end personnel. They came up and they sealed off our linebacker, and our corner overran the play again, over pursued it. He broke outside down the sideline, man, maybe had a 20-yard gain. Those are the run fits that he's talking about. Now, here's one thing I want to say. Like, I heard Elko's post-game press conference, and I know that from the naked ear, the people who don't understand the game, they think that we just had an overall bad performance. He's being overly critical as a coach, because that's what coaches do when they look at that. But those little moments that I just gave you are the moments that he's talking about that change the outcome of games like that. When it's a push and pull, when it's a tug, when it's a battle, those little plays make the difference in the outcome.
Yeah, and I thought it was pretty impressive. There was a lot of question marks about who would play alongside Torian York. Yeah. And Scooby Williams was A&M's highest graded defender this week. If that's going to be how whoever is next to him, whether it's Scooby Williams, Solomon DeShields, or Damian Sanford, if that guy that's going to play next to Torian York plays at a high level all year, you got to like what the front seven's going to do in terms of matching fits and then making plays at the line of scrimmage or behind. But Scooby Williams was all over the place.
Man, look, overall, our defense I was impressed. I loved what we saw from defense, but that's what we expected coming with Elko, right? We know that Elko is going to bring a defense. He's going to bring a scheme that's going to fit his personnel, and we're going to be dominant. I love what the defense did. We didn't get much help from the offense. See, that's the thing. It goes together, right? But overall, from a defensive standpoint, the way Scooby played, I thought he played phenomenal. I thought he played great in the pass game. He had great spatial awareness. He played great in space when it came to open field tackles. I love his run fits that he had. Our front is a nice package, and Notre Dame showed a lot of respect to what we have on the front. Look at their game plan and understand how they were trying to operate. They were trying to get the ball out quick in 3-step drops. You saw a lot of intermediate pass plays. You saw a lot of rub and mesh routes. That's because our front is dominant, and they understood that. So from an overall perspective on defense, man, I think you get Brooks back. I think that was a big loss early in the game. But, man, I think it can all come together. The guys played together. You got one of the biggest matchups and toughest tests of the season out of the way right out the gate. I'm ready to see what we do the rest of the year, man. I'm excited about this group, and I think there's a lot to look forward to this season.
Man, you've been a breath of fresh air, I think, for a lot of folks, JP, because, like I said off the top, like, you can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater on the season, because as frustrating as losing that game was, because it was tied with, 4 minutes left or whatever it was, and the offense got the ball back with a chance to go down and take the lead. It didn't happen. Notre Dame made the plays in crunch time, and you didn't. Mm-hmm. But there's still so much football to be played, and it could always be worse. We could always be talking about that team in Tallahassee after looking the way they have for the first 2 weeks. So what's giving you this optimism about this group going forward?
It was a 6-6 ball game coming out of halftime. I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, it was a 13 all ball game going to the fourth quarter. The game was in our grasp, right? Here's what gives me excitement, man, and got me looking towards the future. Our defense, I thought was phenomenal. Now everybody looks at the stats. Oh my God, we gave up the run plays, man. That was just breaking the dam. At some point, man, you're going to make a mistake. You're going to miss a tackle. The good thing is we were in position. As a coach, my one job as a coach is to put you in position to make plays. It is on you as the player to make plays. I.e., example, Will Lee could have had a pick six. You get that pick six, it changes the outcome of the game. All that stuff matters. Now, let me tell you what excites me on the offensive side. We went down 13-6. Our offense gets the ball back. All of a sudden, we drive right back down the field, and we answer. That's what gives me excitement. We found something. And it was in an adverse situation where we had to answer, we had to respond. That's what gives me hope. That's what makes me excited. Defense travels, offense will get their rhythm. Now, remember, they say growth. The biggest growth is from game 1 to game 2. But when you're looking at it from an offensive perspective, that's timing, that's play calling, that's understanding situational football. That growth happens a lot, and I think you'll see that this week going into McNeese.
Yeah, and again, McNeese, I think A&M could come out and play probably their C- game and win by a few scores. So is there much that we can take from Saturday? Because now, more than ever, that game in a week and a half in the Swamp is looking mighty big for not only A&M's season, but also Florida's season and then potentially Billy Napier's future in Gainesville. So is there anything we can learn this weekend against McNeese as we go into that important Florida game?
You can learn who the guy is at the receiver position. One of the things that I was disappointed was about Moose Muhammad. I don't know why I didn't see him play a lot this weekend. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he just didn't perform well in camp. I think he's a dynamic playmaker, and every time I've seen him touch the football, he's made plays. So I don't know what that is. Now, what you need to look for offensively is just the rhythm. You need to find those playmakers on the outside. We know what we have at the running back position. I was impressed by all three guys at the running back spot. Who's going to solidify themselves at the center position? Because, we went down, we lost our lineman there. Then defensively, man, I'm looking for complete and utter dominance. Now, for me as a defensive player, I'm looking for a complete shutout. What I saw at Notre Dame, that better translate and that better be more dominant against McNeese. That's what I'm looking for as a defensive coach. They shouldn't get past the 50 unless there's just some accident. We fumbled a football in our own territory, something of that. That's what I'm looking for because that team is too talented. That side of the ball, is too talented for us not to be that dominant. But where's the rhythm on offense? Who are the downfield playmakers for us at the receiver position, and who will fill in at that center spot? And how do we take those pieces? We get the continuity, the chemistry, and we get the rhythm going this week. That's what I'm looking for.
JP, I always learn something, man. I appreciate your time, buddy.
Hey, man, appreciate it.
Yeah, that's former Texas A&M defensive back and NFL player Jordan Pugh.